call to order the City of St. Charles Planning and Development Committee. Would you please call the roll?
Sulcida?
Here.
Oaks?
Here.
Baumgart?
Here.
Munt?
Here.
Lencioni?
Here.
Gem?
Here.
Trilla?
Here.
Werbaugh?
Here.
Fessner?
Here.
Weber?
Here.
Thank you. To begin, I'm looking for a motion for the omnibus.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Werbaugh?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Sulcida?
Yes.
Oaks?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Munt?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Trilla?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to 4, we will start with A, Plan Commission recommendation to approve a minor subdivision, final plat for Maple Norway re-subdivision. Go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Avondale Custom Homes has purchased a property known as 505 and 511 Prairie Street. They have submitted a minor subdivision final plat to re-subdivide those lots. Basically, they're shifting them from frontage on Prairie Street to frontage on South 5th Street. There will still be 2 lots. The current homes that are on those properties have been demolished, and the plan is to build 2 new single-family homes. And with that, I can turn it over for any questions.
Move for approval.
I just have one question. I mean, it looks like there's plenty of land, but there's no water concerns as far as going on to other neighboring properties?
Not, as I know, the city engineer has reviewed the comments the same as Public Works, and they have no outstanding major comments. Actually, I don't believe they had any comments.
Okay.
All the comments staff has are kind of minor related to the final plat.
Okay, thank you.
Anything down here?
Nope, just a question as far as changing the frontage. So obviously now the front of the homes will face 5th Street. How will there be access to the second parcel at 511 Prairie coming in off of 5th?
Both homes will have driveways on South 5th Street.
On the south side of it?
Yeah.
Okay. So they will no longer have a driveway that exits right on the Prairie Street?
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Move for approval.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Werbaugh?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Sulcida?
Yes.
Oaks?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Munt?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Trilla?
Yes.
Thank you. That passed.
Thank you.
Moving on to D, recommendation to authorize master engineering services agreement with Clark Dietz Incorporated, Thomas Engineering Group, and WBK Engineering LLC, and approve flat and hourly rates for engineering plan review and construction inspection services for private development. Thank you, Russell. Take it away.
Yes, thank you. Community development utilizes engineering consultants for review and inspection of private construction projects. We've been primarily utilizing one provider the past few years under a master service agreement. We were due to go out for a request for proposals this year, which we did this past August. We received 10 responses. 5 of those firms were interviewed, and 3 have been selected based on the RFP criteria. The selected firms are 2 new firms, Clark Dietz and Thomas Engineering, and continuing with our existing provider, WBK Engineering. Clark Dietz has strength in construction site inspections. Thomas has a strength in plan review. WBK has successfully provided both of these services in the past, and they also have skills in stormwater management design and report review, which is a highly technical service that we utilize them for. So the selection of the 3 firms will allow staff greater flexibility to assign projects as needed. There's a comparison of the rates that are included. It's both flat rates for services and hourly services. With this type of service, what we look for is a combination of a reasonable cost, but then also reliable and experienced staff, since we're really relying on these consultants to perform work on our behalf during the review and inspection process. Most of these costs are covered by developers, either through deposits or fees that we take in. So far this year, we've estimated about 85% of the costs that we've incurred have been developer reimbursable expenses. So with that, I can take any questions.
So the 3, couple of questions actually. You said there were 10, so I assume the other 5, based on the executive summary, the other 5 then just didn't meet the RFP requirements. Is that why you didn't even call them back?
Yeah, so we obviously had a lot to choose from, so we selected the 5 we thought were best qualified based on our application.
And that's great, and I understand your rationale, and I agree with it. The professional, let's see, when you scroll down in the packet, notice of professional service providers, it mentions service period 3 years. So and this is a 3-year contract, we'll be mixing it up again in 3 years, is that right?
Correct.
And is that a typo then? It says October of 2023. Is that retroactive or?
Yes, so our review process took a little bit longer than we anticipated, so these contracts will be in place starting with the council approval, so it'll be
December,
the calendar year.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Just more of a comment, and I like the concept that we're utilizing 3 different engineering firms to give you guys the resources you need to fulfill your work when you have too much work with developments. What I noticed and what I like about this is I noticed WBK also does private developments and also public developments for us. So I think being able to go to other engineering firms to avoid any potential conflicts of interest or even the appearance of a conflict of interest is important. So I support this, what you're putting before us completely. So thank you.
Is there any comments? Otherwise,
Move for approval.
Second.
okay, moved by Wirball, second by Gamma. Please call the roll.
Wirball,
Yes.
Bessner,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Kulkaitis,
Yes.
Folds,
Yes.
Baumgart,
Yes.
Munn,
Yes.
Gem,
Yes.
Trilla.
Yes.
That passes. Moving on to E, recommendation to approve an amendment to Title 18 Stormwater Management Ordinance, Section 18.04.010, Stormwater Management Ordinance. Where else?
Yes, this is an amendment to the stormwater ordinance in the city code regarding fences, specifically restrictions on fence type and ground clearance for fences that are located in easements or floodplains. The current 4-inch clearance requirement for a solid panel fence has created some issues for homeowners in situations where they're trying to enclose their yards for their pets. That 4-inch clearance sometimes is not sufficient. In terms of keeping the pet in the yard, it's also on occasion created some aesthetic issues with the design of fences. We have a process in place to review a lower clearance for a fence, but it's somewhat time-consuming and cumbersome and sometimes involves the homeowner involving a private engineer. And oftentimes, we've seen fences modified later after the fact, after we've done our inspection, because the clearance issue was a problem. So in response to this issue, staff's reviewed the code, and we believe a 2-inch clearance would be sufficient for drainage purposes and would meet the needs of most of the homeowners. So we're proposing to amend the code accordingly. We'd update a document that's a release and indemnity agreement that's signed anytime an easement's or a fence is constructed in an easement. And we'd add language in there addressing drainage impacts, which is already in our code, but it's not currently in that indemnity agreement. So with that, I can take any questions.
So a picket fence in the past, was that always 4 inches as well? Picket
No.
meaning not,
Yeah,
anything
so-
not private?
Yeah, so picket fence, if it's 50% open, which a typical picket fence is, there's only a 2-inch clearance for that.
So it is only
currently.
2 inches, okay.
Correct.
And that'll stay the same?
Correct.
2 inches now. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for changing this ordinance, because over the last 2 years, I can't tell you how many people ask me, why is it 4 inches? You know, my little dog can maybe stick their head underneath the fence. So thank you for making this change. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I know we had replaced our fence about 8 years ago, and I had to have that 4-inch gap, and I was not happy with it, but I had to abide by it. But I have also had people complain why we need a 4-inch gap in the floodplain in the backyard. And I think this is a good idea, bring it down to 2 inches. And yes, I've seen a lot of people who do modify their fences after the fact. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Move. Second.
By Weber, second by Wirball. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Wirball,
Yes.
Bessner,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Kulkaitis,
Yes.
Folds,
Yes.
Baumgart,
Yes.
Munn,
Yes.
Gem,
Yes.
Trilla.
Yes.
Thank you, that passes. Moving on to recommendation to amend Title 15, Building and Construction, and Title 18, Stormwater Management Ordinance. Ross?
Yes, so community development issues site development and stormwater permits for a range of different private work, which may include simple grading modifications to a property or a large new subdivision. And once these are issued, construction of these projects requires a significant amount of staff time for inspections and oversight of what's going on at a construction site to monitor that plans and specifications are followed. Previously, the billing for these inspections was handled based on tracking staff hours and billing that back to the developer. In practice, this has not been a very efficient method to keep track of time and results in both the billing and the payments lagging behind when the services are taking place. And with some recent staff vacancy, we've tried utilizing consultants for this service. And in those cases, a deposit is provided by the developer for the full cost of the consultants. So we're now proposing to change the code to switch to a fee-based model for these permits, where the fee would be paid up front. The amount would be based on a percentage of the construction cost. This is a system that's used by other municipalities in the area. Additionally, we've received some feedback from developers that they would prefer to have these costs known up front for their budgeting and financing purposes instead of us having it billed after the fact, and it's difficult to predict what the final amount would be. The proposed fees based on our tracking of actual expenses for recent projects. I believe our fee is in line, similar to what other municipalities have, and reflects what our costs have been. And we would expect, based on this fee, to cover costs on average. Some may be higher or lower for certain projects, but overall we would expect to more consistently collect the amount of revenue necessary for the work through this fee-based system that we're proposing to follow. With that, I take any questions.
I support the concept. Thanks for even proposing it. The one thing I did have a question regarding in the memo or in the summary again, it mentions this whole concept of a resident engineer, and I know you're doing away with that, and which is fine. I was just curious, when you mention it's not inconsistent and effective, not protecting the city's interests, can you go a little bit deeper? Is it because they're hired by the developer, right?
Yes. Well, for one reason, they are hired by the developer, but also it's been inconsistent as to when they would be required to be on site based on the type of work. Sometimes there's a difference of opinion as to who would determine whether the engineer needs to be there or not. And we found in practice that even when we've tried to impose that requirement, it hasn't been consistent. And I think the intent of that was to rely on this resident engineer to be monitoring what's being constructed. But it's really more in the city's interest to have someone who's objective and is looking for us to be monitoring that, because the interests of the engineer working for the developer are different than the city.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to say I think this is a great process improvement. It looks like it's going to make things a little bit more streamlined. I also agree this helps them with the upfront cost. So I think all around this is a win on both sides, and it helps make sure that we recuperate those costs without additional costs on our side. So it's really nice. Thank you.
So yeah, I support what you want to do here, Russ. I just have one question. So the fee, you have 2.5% fee, and then I noticed that if they happen to go over, it says additional fees may be required to cover the excess cost. So that means you may have to go out there and compel them to reimburse that cost. So I'm just wondering, and I want to get your thought on this, if we can do a 2.5% fee, and then similar to what Elgin has, like a hybrid where we also have a 0.5% refundable deposit. Would that work too?
Yes, I think we could work with a system like that. Again, I wanted to make sure we were still setting a fee so that we're always collecting an amount, without us having to track staff time. But if we have that deposit on hand in the event that it does run over cost,
it protects us. It protects our, and then staff isn't going out there trying to get the money and stuff like that. So, okay. I'll make a motion to approve the 2.5% fee plus a 0.5% refundable deposit.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, but what I'd actually prefer is make an amendment to the motion that's on the start, make an amendment, vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the whole thing together, because what's presented needs to change first. You follow me?
Let me see.
So just propose an amendment to amend the current agenda item to be 2.5 to have the language 2.5 plus the fee.
Right.
Just make it as an amendment.
Okay, so I'll approve the recommendation to Title 15, but to also add a 0.5% deposit fee, refundable deposit fee.
So we're voting to amend first, and then we'll approve it as amended. Clear? Okay, I've got a motion and a second from St.Charles. Please call the roll.
Wirball?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Bungard?
Yes.
Muntz?
Yes.
Yem?
Yes.
Trilla?
Yes.
Okay, so now that it's been amended, go ahead and make a motion to approve it as it's stated now, would you please?
I'll make a motion to approve the Title 15.
I'll
Second from
it
Jim.
As
Okay.
amended.
As amended.
As amended, yeah.
Please call the roll.
Wirball,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Kulturitis,
Yes.
Folk,
Yes.
Baumgart,
Yes.
Munce,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Trilla.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, going on to, G, recommendation, to amend Title 15 Buildings and Construction regarding engineering requirements for building permits.
Yes, this is a code amendment to clean up some requirements and procedures for engineering approvals for building permit projects. The most significant change is to formalize a system for issuing temporary occupancies. This would be for situations where building and life safety improvements are in place, but the site improvements are not completed, such as grading or landscaping remaining incomplete. The code allows for a temporary occupancy to be issued based on winter conditions right now, when improvements can't be completed due to the weather. But what we've seen more recently is instances where a temporary occupancy is being requested because of a business opening or a tenant requirement to occupy a building. So what we propose to do is amend the code and set a standard amount for a cash deposit that we would receive anytime we're issuing a temporary occupancy. So there would be a set rate for single family and a different rate for multifamily commercial projects. And those amounts could be adjusted based on the actual cost of the construction for the improvements that are remaining. And so that's the cash deposit we would take in and hold until the work is complete. We've been utilizing this practice on occasion. It's been successful.
Questions, comments?
I'd say one question. So with that temporary permit, if I go back to our street paving up in the reserve that we dealt with earlier this year, would something like this, Russ, cover that?
So this would cover if it's specifically related to the permit for one of the houses.
Okay.
So if there was an issue, I'm sure this happened in that development where there was work was completed on the house, but the lot wasn't finished.
Okay.
So the site wasn't graded. They could have provided these funds for that.
So it's more for the individual resident being given the occupancy temporary permit to make sure we've got the cover up what needs to be finished.
Correct, yeah, because for subdivision improvements for the streets and the public utilities, we have the financial guarantees in place.
To do that, that's great. We have the letter of credit. So thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Move for approval?
I've got a motion
Second.
and a second from, so Alderperson Munns, and second by Alderperson Kemp. Please call the roll.
Wirball,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Kulturitis,
Yes.
Folk,
Yes.
Baumgart,
Yes.
Munce,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Trilla.
Yes.
Thank you, that passes. Do we have any public comment? We don't have public, because that finishes our new business. Additional items from mayor, staff, or council? Okay, we do have, executive session today, so I'm looking for just a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jim, second by Petrella.